No, we have
Yeah,
a plus 4.
but where I was confused at though is because you added them to.
Because there are two rules for adding. The rules say when the signs are the same, which it was here, two pluses,
To keep the same.
you add the number and keep the signs. But it also says when the signs are different, you subtract the smaller from the larger and keep the sign. You gotta remember two rules for adding.
That's what I was missing.
For adding is two rules. For multiplication, for all of them is two rules because it's whether the signs are the same or whether the signs are different.
Okay.
So when you add, when the signs are the same, add the numbers, keep the sign. So when you subtract, it's gonna get back to that because you're gonna be adding at the end. But when you start out subtracting, the first thing you have to do is change the sign of the number being subtracted to the opposite. So here we were subtracting a positive 4. The first thing we had to do was change that positive 4 to a negative 4 and change the subtraction sign to an addition sign. Now we're adding. So now we forget about subtraction
Altogether.
altogether. Now we're going back to the rules of adding, which says if the signs are the same over there, we added them and kept the sign.
Okay.
But it says if the signs are different, that's when you subtract.
Okay.
The smaller from the larger and keep the sign of the larger.
Okay.
So adding and subtracting all boils down to adding. But when you start out subtracting, you have to first change the signs before you can add. But once you get it to an addition problem, then you follow those two rules that you remember. Same signs, keep the sign.
What do you do if you have both top and bottom numbers negative?
Okay, if I had, still you're gonna follow the rules of addition. If I had this, and let's say it started out positive, now first thing I'm gonna do is change this positive to a negative.
Right.
And then I'm gonna add. Now these signs are the same. Add the numbers, keep the sign.
And add the numbers
What I
includes
mean-
both negative numbers.
I mean, like, if the numbers between the parentheses, they're both negatives.
These are both negatives.
No, at the beginning.
At the beginning, okay, just change it to a positive. Let me show you.
So you always.
If this had been negative,
Yeah.
first thing I do is change it to the opposite. It was negative, now it's positive. Change this to addition. Now the signs are different. Subtract the smaller from the larger. Keep the sign of the larger.
Okay.
The rules don't change because the numbers have to follow the rules, okay? So it doesn't matter if it starts off negative, it's going to change to positive. If it starts off positive, it's going to change to negative. Doesn't matter, whatever it changes to, then you determine, are the signs the same now or are they different now? If the signs are now the same, you're going to add the numbers, keep the sign. If the signs are now different, you're going to subtract the smaller number from the larger number and keep the sign of the larger number. Question. You got that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the only thing different is when you subtract, you got to change it first. But then once you change it, you're back to adding those same two things, same or different. When you're multiplying and dividing, remember when you're multiplying, same sign is what? Positive, different signs, negative. So when you're dividing, you're still just thinking about that. Do I need same signs or different signs? And you need same or different depending on what's in the box. If what's in the box is positive, these signs have to be what?
Negative.
The same.
Yeah.
They don't have to be negative. They
Or
can
the
be
same.
both positive or both negative. They have to be the same.
Yeah, the same.
Because you can't determine what they tell you to divide it by.
Right.
You can't make that positive or negative. They tell you, but if they have a negative out here, I know to get a positive in here, I gotta also have a negative up here.
Right.
If I had a positive out here and gotta get a
That's
positive,
gonna be negative. Whatever number you choose.
what's the answer gonna be up here? What did they have to be to have to get a positive in here?
Same.
Oh, same, positive.
She turned around quick, ain't she? Hold on.
She did look at me like, about to get it now.
If it's a negative in the box, you know that these signs have to be what?
Different.
Yeah.
Different.
Get it, Nicole.
So if it's a positive here, this has gotta be negative.
Minus.
If it's a negative out here,
That's gonna be positive.
It's gotta be positive, because this is what determines whether it needs to be the same or different.
Right.
So it's still just one set of rules. Jeff?
Is any of, I take it this is gonna be on the GED test
You ask
itself?
me that all the time. I've never gotten a chance to take the GED test. They won't let you test it and teach it.
Okay.
So what they tell me is that everything in this book can be on the test. That's what I told you last week.
All right,
I can't tell you specifically what's gonna be on there. All I can do is try to teach you everything in this book so that if it's on there,
Can do it.
you'll know how to do it. Any of this can be on there. All of it won't be because it's under different categories, you know what I mean? When they talk about parts of a number, some people might get a lot of fractions, some people might get decimal, some people might get percent. Because that's all ways to express a number that's lower than a whole. You don't know on which form of the test what you'll get. That's why you have to know it all.
okay.
So they don't tell us that specifically what's gonna be on there. But the books that are created to study for the test are created by people, by publishers who work with the test writers, so they know what needs to be studied for the test. And so when we purchase these books, it tells you, if you read the front, it says, and read the forward in here, it says, all of this
Preview.
can be on the test. So you need to know it all. Any other questions? Tomorrow, next week is the last week in this session, and by next Thursday, the sign-in sheet is around, so make sure that this 8-week session
It is
it'll
another
start.
go
And
around.
we take our tape test.
Yes, and so,
Next week?
What's
Alright.
next week? I'm gonna be
ready
here
to
no
test
matter what.
some.
I'm getting my GED.
everybody didn't sign in, make sure you get the sign-in sheet, sign in now. But there'll be some folks as well who've already taken a tape test and have already gone up on that. What we will test you on, I'm gonna give you a practice, GED math test.
You already know
And
what's
that's
See
what
how
I
you do.
heard. You good?